Hi guys. The video that follows is a very niche type of video, and it'll specifically be of interest to classic fly dressers, where I'm going to dissect and put back together a classic salmon fly. So as I said, it's not for everybody, so if it's not your thing, hopefully we'll find some other videos in future for everybody's taste, but as I said, this one is particularly niche. So it's also going to be quite long and drawn out, so what I'll probably do here is to split this video over several goes, and we'll tie the fly in installments, as I said, because there's a lot of different things going on in it. But if you're still with me, I suppose we'll move into the video. So hi guys, welcome to part 3 of building this vintage Shannon back together again. So once we got the fly to this point where we have the body hackle etc on, the next portion of this fly was the central wing. So that's the multiple covert central wing structure, which I suppose is what we recognise Shannon's by, and that it was different on both sides. So one side had, the centre of the wing is a yellow underwing covert type feather, and then one side of the wing had an orange and a powder blue feather on it, and the other side had red. I'm not sure what the idea of that was, but possibly if you swing across a fish in a lay, it sees the fly coming, presenting one colour to it, and then as it swings across its nose, the fly suddenly changes colour, and the idea I think there is that the fish should snatch at it because it's just changed in front of its eyes. So at this point we're going to dispense with the vise out of the way here, and we're going to have a go with our hands, because this central wing structure was bound in hand and then taken separately over and applied to the fly. So I am going to try and reuse as much of the original material here as I can. However, the central yellow macaw feather, the stem of it was damaged, so we're not going to be able to use that. So, but I am going to try and make use of these others. So this is the orange feather that was in it. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this is. I think it might be a macaw feather that has been dyed orange, because the stem etc of it here appears to be bright orange. The centre feather was a yellow, some sort of a macaw underwing feather, or possibly some sort of a tail feather. And what was unusual is that there was actually a bind halfway up, so they tied all of the bases of the feathers together here at the tie-in point, but then there was actually a knot placed about 1.5 centimeters up, and that sort of kept all of the feathers together. So we're going to attempt that here. We may not succeed, but we are going to attempt it. So I'm going to take a bit of tie-in thread, and I'm going to get it waxed. And I'm going to replace the central macaw underwing flat with this feather here, and I'm going to then put this orange feather on the near side, along with this powdered blue type feather here. So you can see I now have this held, and then I'm going to try and attach this sort of scarlety reddy macaw feather on the other side. So this was the central wing array then. I'm going to transfer that to this hand, and then I'm going to try and bind down the stalks of this. And there we go, so we have this central wing array. But given you have 3 stalks here, you have another stalk on that side, they do like to kick, so what the dresser of this had done was to create like a knot somewhere to further up to stabilize the stalks at one point. So I'm just going to put a half hitch in there to keep our wing bunch intact. Pull that good and tight, trim that off, and hopefully that will stay. So then what they've done was to come certain ways along it. I'd imagine just pull all up and all fibres down to create that sort of gap where all the stalks are together, and then we will slide our tie-in thread into that gap through the same corresponding gap on top, and then this is the tricky part. I'm just going to tie, I think, a knot here because there didn't appear to be thread attaching it. To the rest of the tie-in, it seemed to be just a knot. So I've got a knot tied here, and we'll tighten that down. This is fiddly. Okay. That's tight in place. Trim the thread from each side of it. And for me, I think to secure that, I probably would say a little bit of varnish. So I don't know if you can see that there, but there's a knot now tied there. You can see it, and that binds all the stalks, keeps them all in line, and stops them from kicking out every which way. I suppose it probably secures it in the water. So our knot's in place there. I'm just going to take a little bit of clear varnish from somewhere. Now what I did also find when I dissected this was that there was a little bit of varnish just in here, in the very base of the feather. So I would imagine that there was some sort of a little bit of varnish just set in there to keep that in place as well. So that is our central wing array constructed. I'm going to set that to one side here, and then we'll bring the fly back in to get it attached. Okay. So I'm going to take my thread back a little bit to here, set this up on top. now I can see why I suspected there was a long tail on it, because kind of would need to be quite long to balance the size of the macaw wing. And with that in place, I'm going to cut off the tag ends of that. And bind it down. So it was my thought when I took it apart that it was varnished at this point, and I've always suspected that this sort of went as you went along, that they kind of finished and varnished, made it more and more secure, because we're going to have a lot of stuff tied on at the front here. You didn't want your fly twisting, so to me it made sense that there was some sort of a varnish went on at this stage. So I am going to take a thin clear varnish, and I'm just going to varnish our head such as it is at this stage. So next there were a few of the fancy feathers that sort of went on as additional sides to this, so we'll put this on, and then that's the central wing array with its sides completed. So I have salvaged the feathers that come out of that, so the order that they went on in, we're going to adhere to that here. So we're now going to go with 2 cock of the rock feathers, which went on this far side to me, which is the side you're looking at. And then there were 2 Indian crow feathers on my side. So I'm just going to flip the fly up, I'm going to set them on, hold them in place, and a turn to hold them. And then there was 1 Indian crow feather on the far side, your side. I set that on, and bind that down in place. Doesn't catch again. So that was the big feather part of the wing done to this point. So as per usual, I think we'll call it a halt here, and then we'll continue with it after this in another video. So as usual, you like what you see, give us a like, subscribe, tell your friends, and until next time, tight lines, and thanks for watching.